Hey, how you doing? Welcome back to the podcast. I know it's been a week, but it was a very exciting week that I got up to this week, but I'm not going to talk about that today. I've got my Canada top on for a very good reason. And this week, this episode, I'm going to talk about my experience in Whistler, skiing down Whistler, and because yesterday it was announced that Victoria's ski season is going to go ahead potentially on the 22nd of June, and I was thinking there could be a potential to actually do a ski season in Australia. I know for many of you out there that in the Northern Hemisphere, you probably think Australia, ski season, what? Like, yeah, we do have some mountains in the southeast of Australia. About 3 hours from me is the closest mountain, Mount Buller. And so I was doing a bit of research on Mount Buller. But before we get into that, let me tell you my experience in Whistler. And yeah, when I was in Canada, I was in Vancouver. Whistler's 2 hours north of Vancouver. And it's probably one of the best mountains in the world. It hosted the 2010 Olympic Games. So it was the Vancouver Winter Olympics, but most of the events, all the mountain events were in Whistler. So it is huge. It's actually comprises of two mountains, Whistler and Blackcomb, and there's a cable car that goes between both the mountains, which has like crazy views. It is a winter wonderland. People come from all over the world to see it. It's the mountain I learned on, which probably isn't the best mountain to learn on. It gets hard very quickly, but it was great, especially after about 5 times. After I learnt, like after about 5 days, I was getting the hang of it, and I was like, I actually enjoying it, because after 2-3 days in, I was not enjoying it. It was very intense, lots of snowstorms, and just like it was crazy. So I couldn't get accommodation in Whistler. So Whistler is a town that ranges from 10,000 people in the shoulder months, so in autumn and spring, to about 50,000 come Christmas time. So it expands dramatically, and so all the hotels are booked, and you can imagine it's quite expensive. So I lived about 50 minutes south in a place called Squamish, which is in between Vancouver and Whistler. So it's actually pretty good. Even though I was living in Squamish for about 3 months, I didn't actually make it down to Vancouver because I had been there previously. I didn't really see the need. And the people are totally different. They're more like people that live in Whistler than that live in Vancouver. So I had this kind of really cheap Ford Focus manual car, and I'd drive up and on my winter tires, and I put a lot of money into the car as well. It was a Lemon, and it broke down on me when I was road tripping across the States. But I also had a pretty crazy crash as well, where I kind of fell into the ditch and into the snow, and it was full on. It was very scary. So if I were to do a ski season here, I wouldn't want to drive. And if I did drive, I want to drive a good car type of thing, right? And yeah, so that's kind of the short version of it. So just so you're aware, it takes about 20 minutes to go from the base of the village in Whistler to the top of Whistler. So that cable car is like 20 minutes. So, and it will take you about the same, if you're a decent skier, take you about the same amount of time to go down it. So it's really, really long. And the mountains here in Australia are not to that extent at all. So it's definitely some good times. I met people from all over the world on the chairlifts, people from Hong Kong, people from Australia, people from New Zealand, people from Mexico, just everyone coming, people from Europe, people from French Canada, so from the eastern part of Canada, coming over and saying it's a dream and stuff like that. So it really is like a Christmas wonderland or winter wonderland. Amazing experience. The people, the Australians there, lots of Australians, are also known as being quite Australian, quite bogans, quite a lot of bogans. I didn't really meet a lot of them, and the ones that I did, I didn't really hang out with, except one buddy, Adam, who worked in a bar, which, he's a cool dude. So, so I wasn't really into that culture, and, into the bogan drinking culture, as it may seem. So, here comes the dilemma, right? As you know, it's COVID-19, it's affecting the world, and in Australia here, we're getting monthly payments, or we're getting fortnightly payments of $1,100, around $1,140, right? And so that works out to about $2,200 a month, or a bit more than that. And that's until September. And it's, for me as an ESL teacher, all my ESL work is gone. I was going into the movie industry. All that work, potential work, has gone. So even in Vancouver, where it's like huge, and I was working in there in the movie industry there, that's all stopped. So basically, I was like, you know what? I'm not working. I'm probably not going to find work till summer. And if I do find work, it'd be like a couple of shifts here, there, some cafe work, whatever. I'm kind of waiting for the ESL work to come back in. So I may as well spend the winter in doing a ski season, doing it on the cheap, So I wrote up a bunch of pros and cons as to why I should go and do a ski season in Australia, and why I shouldn't. And the first one, obviously, it's an amazing experience. It'd be great to see those eucalyptus trees covered in snow, which is wild in my mind. It's so amazing experience. Skiing is awesome, so much fun. And if you've never been skiing, if you've never seen snow, it's really good, and it can be cheaper than you think, but it is quite expensive. But another pro is that it's really good exercise, really good for your quads, for your legs, for your abs. I was really feeling it when I was doing daily, or every other day I'd go up, and I was just like, oh my God, my legs, so good. It's extremely fun, even when you fall. Especially when you fall, you get scared and then you fall, and it's like, oh, it's soft snow, it's quite nice, if that makes sense. Or when you kind of just survive, you kind of make it down the bottom of the mountain, you're like, fuck, I made it, and it's that feeling of just like, oh my God, I didn't die, So I don't know, that sounds horrifying, but just like when you go on a roller coaster, same sort of feeling. It's like, oh my God, this is so much fun. Oh my God, I'm not dead. So the skis and stuff and gear that I buy, I won't have to sell like I did in Canada, because I'd be able to store them here. So going on to the cons is that it is super expensive. It is like crazy expensive. It's the same kind of pricing as North American ski resorts, because essentially two companies own most ski resorts in North America and in Australia, I believe. Yeah, and there's some resorts that are owned by the same company in Japan, Vail Resorts, and another one I forget. But it's really fucked. And the only way to do it cheaply is to get a van, buy a ski pass for $1,600 and Canadian, and then go from like Vancouver and then kind of go into Colorado and just do all the mountains there and live out of your van. I mean, it's a way to do it. It'll be really fun and an adventure, but again, it's not great. So they also offer, hey, do the winter ski season in North America and then also come down to Australia where you can, do the winter season for Australia. And I think Perisher is all part of that deal. But man, like, you buy that pass, it doesn't matter, you're not going overseas. So, and they're not doing any discounts for just the one mountain, which is really shit. So the ski pass for Mount Buller, for example, is at the moment, I think it's $1,200. And if you buy now, and then if you buy next month, it's $1,600 or $1,500, just crazy expensive. But for me, if I can go up and I can get that average day price to about $50, I'd say that's a good deal. I think in general, if you can get it to about $50 a day, it's a really good deal. Anything $50 to $100 a day, again, that's okay. Anything north of 100 is quite expensive. And for anyone that's been skiing before, if you go on a weekend, if you go on a public holiday, you're paying like $200, just to go up the mountain. So, which is wild. And the other con would be any of the mountains here in Australia will not be the same as Whistler. Like Whistler Blackcomb has pretty much everything. It's got a ton of snow. It's very soft, especially in December when I was learning. Oh my God, bad time to learn, but really good for skiers and snowboarders is that it's just like powder. Everything's powder. And then in the spring you get the bluebird days, and just it's really, really, really good. What else? So it's not going to be the same. It's just not. It's not going to be the same, but it's probably still going to be just pretty good. The logistics is also a difficult one. When I was going up, when I was trying to set up for Whistler, it was kind of difficult because like I had a car, but I was also renting, and I was like, you know what, I'm not going to pay rent for December, which means I need to find a place. So I was really pushing myself to find a place, and it was difficult. But luckily, because so many Australians go up there, because so many tourists go up there, they're all in the same predicament. They're all backpackers, and they all want to do the same thing. So they've set up networks like a Facebook forum, for example. You've got Facebook forums for Whistler and for some of the other mountains, but mainly for Whistler, and also Squamish. There's a buy and sell for Squamish, and you can get really cheap things. I got a pair of skis, like fucking good skis, for $50. They were good beginner intermediate skis for $50, and I was just like gobsmacked. At the op shop, I got some ski boots, great boots for like $32, like dirt cheap, really, really cheap. So in comparison, new set of skis is going to, set you back $700, right? New pair of boots is going to cost you $400, like crazy amounts of money. And it's like, fuck, what for? And then I realized it's for those people that ski every year, because once you buy them, it's like you use them for like 6-7 years before they get really fucked. So it's an expensive hobby if you're going to just buy and then get rid of it, which is what a lot of people do in Whistler, which makes those products at the op shop quite cheap, because you have like someone flying in from the States or from Mexico, millionaires flying in, buying their equipment because they don't want to get the hand-me-downs or they don't want to rent. They'll buy it and then just give it away at the end of their week. You know what I mean? So they'll blow tens of thousands of dollars just like that. It's crazy. The amount of money it's unfathomable if you haven't been. So already this is 15 minutes long. Anyway, I checked out Mount Buller. Here's the point. And even if I could find a place to stay, right? Even if I could find a place to stay, I can't I can't do it because one, you're out of the resort. So you'd go to the local town, and to get the bus from Mansfield to Mount Buller is $50, which is wild. $50, $60. It's fucked. It's so fucked. And that's per day. So every day you want to go up, you're going to add on that $50 or the $60 just to get to the resort. And so for the amount of money that I'm getting, it's just not feasible to go to that mountain. Hopefully, I will be looking at some of the other mountains, and hopefully it's not the same, but I fear that it would be. It's because Australia doesn't have enough mountains for it to be viable. And so there's only like 5 ski resorts in Australia that are decent, you know? Anyway, this video is too long and it wasn't funny at all. So I do apologize. The other thing is what I could do with the money, which will have to wait for next video because we are already too long. So I'll see you tomorrow.